Do you ever feel overwhelmed by the ever-changing world of technology? Tech It Out can help make some sense of it all. Breaking down geek speak into street speak, technology columnist, author, and TV personality Mark Saltzman covers consumer technology each week for every listener. Mark tackles the latest news, reviews, and how-tos to help you understand what's hot, what's not, and why.
Hey everyone, welcome to Tech It Out. This is episode 385. Hope you're all doing great, and thank you for making Tech It Out a small part of your day. I was blown away to learn last week that Tech It Out was selected by an organization called Million Podcasts to be in the top 100 gadget or tech podcasts, which is awesome. I was at number 48, thrilled to be in the top 100 or top 50, in fact. And a huge thank you to Million Podcasts. If you're listening to this, there's some seriously awesome podcasts in that list. I was just blown away to even be considered for it. So thank you once again. All right. So we have 3 great topics and guests lined up for you today, and quite the variety, I may add. Someone asked me last week, actually, if my show had any themes, like if it was different every week. And I explained that I like having different guests covering different topics and that there's generally no theme. Once in a while, I'm coming out of CES, the Consumer Electronics Show. That'll be like a special Tech It Out that week or something. But generally, I like having a variety. And I hope you do too. We're going to kick things off in a moment with a review of the new iPhone 16e, Apple's least expensive iPhone, which just came out. We're going to talk with a tech reviewer about his thoughts on that device. Then, a topic not covered on Tech It Out before, space propulsion technology. We're going to chat with the UK company called Pulsar Fusion that claims it can cut down on space travel to other planets like Mars by as much as 50%. Move over, Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson. I'm elbowing in on your territory. I'm really looking forward to that chat, even though I don't know much about space and astronomy and all that, but really keen on learning something today. And finally, Cisco will be on the show, the company that helped build the internet in the 90s. They're going to be on Tech It Out to chat about AI and the workforce. Jeetu Patel will be on the program in about 30 minutes or so. And he says, don't be afraid of AI taking your job. Be afraid of someone who knows how to use AI taking your job. I like that. All of this and more on a brand new Tech It Out, powered by Visa. Securing the world's payments is priority 1. I'll tell you more about Visa's anti-fraud efforts shortly, but let's officially kick off a brand new show with our first interview. While the iPhone 16 family made its much-hyped debut last fall, Apple, in a somewhat unexpected move, just added to that family with its less expensive iPhone 16e. Joining us for his perspective on this new device is Brad Bennett, head of creative at Mobile Syrup, a popular tech site, a digital magazine with the latest tech news and reviews, feature stories, and more. Welcome to the show, Brad. Thanks for your time today.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm always excited to talk iPhone, so I can't wait.
I know you've had some hands-on time with iPhone 16e, so I wanted to invite you onto the program. Before that, though, tell us a bit about Mobile Syrup.
Sure thing. Yeah, we review all kinds of products, from laptops to phones. I even do some automotive stuff. I got a trip coming up for some Cadillac things in a few days, actually. Video games, all kinds of stuff we review.
So at a high level, what is the iPhone 16e all about?
It's the newest iPhone from Apple, so it's exciting. But I think the thing about it that you can take away the most is that it is like the new base model. It sort of seemed like it was replacing the entry-level model originally, and this base model versus entry-level is like a bit of insider speak, but entry-level we would consider something to be quite cheap, and I think base model we consider to be the average price. And I think this honestly kind of fits in as the new average price iPhone for most people.
So it used to be called the iPhone SE, right? Or special edition. That was the entry-level phone with more modest specs and a more modest price tag to go with it. Is that right? And this is sort of the latest version of that?
Yeah, definitely. The iPhone SE was somewhere around the $450 to $500 range, depending on where you were. And it often used older iPhone hardware to help Apple sell its parts and iPhones longer for people that don't really care about upgrading to the newest specs. The iPhone 16e follows a similar marketing path, but Apple doesn't want to directly relate it to the iPhone SE, I think because the price difference has changed so much this year.
Yeah, and we'll get to that. So the iPhone 16e is a bit pricier than what the iPhone SE would have been. But on the flip side, the specs seem to be a lot more impressive. So that kind of begs the question, who would this be for exactly? Is Apple looking to get these in the hands of, like you said, people who don't necessarily need the latest and greatest cameras and processor and screen and all that?
I think so. I think there's a growing number of people. I think, 10 years ago, a lot of people really cared about the iPhone and the new iPhone every single year. But I think as, technology matures and we don't see these huge updates every single year, I think people are just pretty happy going into their carrier store every 2 years and getting the new-ish iPhone. I often tell people a lot, just buy the iPhone from last year, save a few bucks, it'll run the modern software. You'll be happy. And I think for anyone that kind of takes that level of buying advice, isn't using their iPhone as a tool for creative work or content or anything like that, and just needs a phone for texting and calling and maybe taking the odd photos, the iPhone 16e kind of fits into that sweet spot.
So what are some of the more advanced features of this device? I think it is more capable than just using it for, emails and calls and stuff. It can do a lot more, I think.
Definitely. I think that's why I was hinting at calling it the base model before, because I would have always equated the iPhone SE as kind of this older design, kind of for people who really, really don't care about iPhones at all and just kind of need a phone. The iPhone 16e actually does pack in a lot of modern features. It's got enough RAM and a modern chip, so it supports Apple Intelligence. You can play games on it. The screen, it's only 60 hertz, which won't matter to a lot of people, is still really, really color accurate. It's bigger than the iPhone SE, so you get a lot more screen real estate to use. And on top of that, I think just the nature of it being this modern chip means it will get supported for software a lot longer in the future. And I guess one last key upgrade is Apple changed, I guess there's two things. They changed the modem this year and the battery. They kind of go hand in hand. There's a new, more power efficient modem and a larger battery. I think the thing that most people will care about with this iPhone 16e is the battery life is really, really good.
So I heard that, and that to me is the Achilles heel of most smartphones. Getting better, but the more that these phones can do, the worse the battery seems to get. But over time, whether it's a better battery, a smarter processor that can find more efficiencies, or both of those things, we're starting to see better battery life overall. But yeah, reviewers, and I wanted to ask you how you rated the iPhone 16e at Mobile Syrup. People are gushing about the performance in terms of battery life, which is great. I think it may not be the sexiest of features, but I welcome that.
Yeah, it's super important. I mean, like you said, it's not the sexiest. People want to care about the camera. They want to care about the design. But unfortunately, none of those things matter if your phone is dead and in your pocket. So I think extra battery life, super, super important. And yeah, I was getting like 10 hours of screen on time. If I was using the phone less, I was easily going into the next day, which isn't that different from my day-to-day life because I usually use an iPhone 16 Pro Max, which is the biggest and most expensive iPhone. Yeah. But getting comparable battery life out of the cheapest and most entry-level iPhone, and it being so small, I think was really rewarding and something I hope we'll see coming to even more iPhones in the future.
And just to bring everyone up to speed before we continue, when you mentioned the screen refresh rate as being 60 hertz, that's 60 frames per second. Some newer phones have 120 hertz, so it's smoother when you're scrolling. And certainly in some of the apps like games, you want that smoother, silkier motion in fast-moving content, or even just when you're scrolling up and down with your fingertip. But 60 is kind of sort of the baseline.
Anyone coming from an older iPhone won't notice the 60. It'll be normal for them.
Fair. We are chatting with Brad Bennett. He is the creative lead at Mobile Syrup, a popular tech site that showcases the latest gadgets, and not just mobile, but all kinds of content, including gaming and even automotive tech, which I guess is mobile too. But so Android, it seems to be more popular in other markets, Brad, like Asia and Europe, South America. Why do you think iPhone is the top in North America?
I think there has to be something to do with the prestige with iPhones. I think people just really, really like them. I know we see a lot of this green bubble, blue bubble kind of battle in North America, but I think that does illustrate a lot of the popularity of the iPhone. People just like to be part of the in club.
Fair.
MacBooks back in the day, everything Apple just had, at least when it really mattered, when they were defining their branding, they had, I think, stronger design than a lot of people. And while a lot of Android may have caught up in the last few years or the last 10 years, Apple still gets to hold on to that really strong branding that they dominated for in the beginning. And then I think going beyond that, the iPhones may appear more expensive. When you do look at the pricing, Apple will often sell something like the SE or the E, or will sell, say, the iPhone 15 for 2 or 3 years after its existing flagship year. And those prices will go down, which actually gives Apple a wider kind of budget of iPhones to sell than I think most people realize.
And I'd argue their software is better. It's more intuitive. The App Store has got better content overall. Their customer service, I think, is second to none. So I think there's other benefits.
Yeah, and I think the way all the products work together is really, really pivotal for me too. AirPods is like the best.
How much is the iPhone 16e? And do you think it's a good deal?
I do. It's $599 in the US, $899 in Canada. Mm-hmm. So it's not necessarily as cheap as the iPhone SE used to be, but I still think it's a good deal. My whole time when I was reviewing it, I just couldn't find myself having bad things to say about it. It's a really good iPhone. It feels more like an iPhone 16 than it does an iPhone 16e. And I think the price is kind of fair and reflective for that. And also, so much what I was saying earlier, I think the people that kind of will be buying this will be buying it through carrier stores. And I feel like you're going to find lots of discounts over the next like 2-3 years on it as it probably continues to sit on the shelf.
Awesome. Oh, and just going back to your blue and green comment, you're referring to messaging, where if you're chatting with someone who is on Android, then it's a green text message. But if it's an iMessage, which gave you more features, it was in blue. Now it's a bit different with the RCS opening up to everybody, but still the experience is generally better iPhone to iPhone. So that's what you're referring to with that fun kind of blue versus green debate. Finally, where can we read your full review? Simply go to Mobile Syrup, and then is there somewhere you would click there or tap?
Yeah, I've got some stuff up on the Mobile Syrup homepage right now. Apple just put out a bunch of products this week. So if you want to read my thoughts on all of the new Macs, the new iPhones, the new iPads, all of that's on Mobile Syrup. And you can follow me pretty much on every social media at The Brad Fad. The Brad Fad. Love it. Yeah. That's great. I made that a long time ago. And when I made it, there wasn't basically all the other Brads. It's stolen. Sad Brad, Glad Brad, Mad Brad, and all the good rhymes. So I'm left with that. Yeah, it's a keeper. Brad, thank you so much for your time. The Brad Fad. Appreciate it. Thanks again. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Have a good day. Nice guy. All right. When we return on Tech It Out, we talk space exploration and fusion technology for propulsion. What? All right. Stick with us. More Tech It Out when we return.
Listen to Tech It Out whenever you want. Find the Tech It Out podcast at iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to Tech It Out. Pulsar Fusion is the developer of clean space propulsion systems and services through fusion, and they just announced the unveiling of Sunbird, a nuclear fusion rocket concept developed in complete secrecy over the past decade. To tell us all about Sunbird and its potential to dramatically shorten interplanetary travel times, we're joined by Richard Dinan, CEO of Pulsar Fusion. Hi, Richard. Thank you so much for your time today.
It's a pleasure.
All right. So you're going to have to talk to me like I'm a 10-year-old. I'm sure a lot of my listeners are also not so sure what fusion is and this propulsion technology. So please forgive any dumb questions in advance. But to kick things off, it's been said that good technology solves a problem. With that in mind, what is Pulsar Fusion all about? What's the company all about?
Well, we are a propulsion company in the UK. So we specifically work on in-space propulsion. So we don't launch rockets. It's more when the rocket has been launched and you're in space, you need a different kind of propulsion system. And that's what we work on in England here.
And so I guess the biggest challenge to space exploration is the time, is the distance, right? And so, we've been watching this on sci-fi shows for decades now about how to shorten that time span, or other solutions like cryogenically frozen and then you wake up on another planet or another solar system. So Sunbird is a nuclear fusion rocket concept, propulsion technology for once you're in space. Is its goal to cut down time?
Yes. So the problem that it tries to solve, to use your wording, is space is a very, very big place. And we spend all of this fuel to get a rocket into orbit. And once you're there, you have the fire coming out the back of the rocket, which is a combustion reaction.
Right.
And that's a really good way of getting heavy equipment from ground to space. But once you're in the vacuum of space, it's actually a really inefficient, slow propulsion choice. You want something much, much quicker. And space is actually a whole, that is where nuclear exists. And actually, stars are nuclear reactors.
Right.
And they are fusion reactors. And their natural habitat, if you like, is space. So when you hear about people doing fusion on Earth for energy and doing that is doing great things, it's really hard because fusion on Earth is quite unnatural. It doesn't, it works in a vacuum usually, and we have to make vacuum. So doing fusion in space is actually a different challenge. And the advantage it gives you is the fastest possible propulsion speeds. So the exhaust speeds of your space rocket mean that you can actually travel long distances in space at a much shorter time frame, which is so important because it saves the fuel at the beginning. Because if you save the time in space, you save the weight of the mission, which means you need less fuel to get you into space. So the whole economics of the launch and the mission start to work in your favor if you can reduce the time you spend in space.
Got it. Could you not, because you use a different system to get you off Earth, I guess gravity is the biggest issue here, to lift this rocket or spaceship up, can't you then dock it at the ISS, for example, or somewhere else, and then replace that system with something that you're developing? Is that not feasible?
Well, that is the Sunbird, exactly. So what you don't want to do is you don't want to give someone a very heavy, complicated nuclear propulsion system on Earth, which they then have to attach to their rocket, making the rocket even heavier.
Right.
Meaning you need even more fuel so that they can switch to that in orbit, because then you've actually made the mission even more heavy and expensive and bad for the environment as well. And we want to burn all this fuel. The Sunbird concept is the rocket launches, as people have seen, and it meets in low Earth orbit. When it gets to it meets a Sunbird. So the Sunbirds are already in orbit, and they can attach to the rocket, and then they can use that as a sort of space tug. So the Sunbird will then use its fusion engine, which is only good in space. It won't work in the atmosphere. It doesn't work on Earth. So it will then cut the time of the mission down, and when they get to where they're going, they can leave the reactor there, ready for use on another mission. And it's reduced that whole equation of how much rocket fuel you need to burn and saves a lot of money. So it's worth doing because it saves money and it saves fuel and it saves time.
This, though, is still conceptual. There's no Sunbirds right now. I mean, this is still in the development stage or theoretical stage even, perhaps.
Well, we've been working on this for a very long time.
Yeah.
But the technology is very well understood. It's not something that the technology of field reverse confinement fusion is not unique to Pulsar. There are other companies working on it. The design of how our concept is more novel. At the moment, we're working on putting parts of this concept in orbit to test each part out so that we know it's that our calculations are right before we put the whole Sunbird in space. And, you don't want to find out then that something, you've made a false assumption. So for right now, we're testing the individual components in space. And then we look forward to talking to our partners and hopefully getting the first Sunbirds out there.
It sounds like a bit of a chicken and egg thing. Are you at the stage now where you're looking for funding?
No, this is not a funding exercise. So Pulsar already sells engines today for space, but they're not fusion engines. We sell a different type of nuclear engine and we sell other engines, but that is our business and that's how we generate our income. And this is something that we're putting our own funds into.
I see. But are you not seeking partners? For example, like SpaceX, right? They've been pretty vocal about getting to Mars within a couple of years. Is this something that you could partner with them on, or other space agencies, government agencies?
Well, we hope to be able to provide anybody who's moving large equipment in space. We hope to be able to provide a better propulsion system, a more efficient propulsion system. But I'm sure they're going to want to see from us that we have built out the technology properly.
More with Richard Dinan, CEO of Pulsar Fusion, when we return on Tech It Out. Stay with us.
Want to follow Mark? Google him. Mark with a C and Saltzman with a Z. Breaking down geek speak into street speak. This is Tech It Out. Tech It Out with technology columnist, author, and TV personality Mark Saltzman.
Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to Tech It Out. We are chatting with Richard Dinan, CEO of Pulsar Fusion, a UK-based company. As it stands now, with the technology available to a company like SpaceX, just to use them as an example again, so private space company, if they were going to go to Mars today, what propulsion system would they use, and how long would that take versus embracing Pulsar Fusion's Sunbird technology? How much shorter would that trip take?
Well, the numbers that are not Pulsar numbers, but the numbers that have been calculated for the technology, reduce the mission times to Mars by half. So it's a significant saving. And actually, it's exponential. So the further you go, the more of a saving you get. What would be saved in weight and fuel as a result of that, rather than having to refuel in orbit? Liquid methane rocket engines, very hard to refuel them in orbit unless you send the fuel up there. So you really don't want to be using combustion engines for long space missions. You want to be using nuclear. Again, that is an enormous difference if you can halve a mission time. So it's not like this could be a little bit of an assistance. It's really game-changing.
I've heard it's about 6 months to get to Mars from Earth right now.
Yeah, for the calculations also, again, you have to include deceleration, acceleration, all the other potentials of the mission. So I think it's
a little longer.
Very hard to pin it down. It's a very good saving. It's a good 40-50% saving.
Okay. And then forgive this last question. Again, this just sounds like something a fifth grader may ask. But assuming there's a destination in mind, I used Mars as an example earlier. Yeah. How can Pulsar Technologies' Sunbird be leveraged to get back? Is there a reserve?
Yeah. The way we've designed the concept is we'd have, the reason they're called Sunbirds is because actually they were designed off the reactor and a big radiation shield in the fuel tank. And they did look a little bit like birds. And then we realized that we need to have them ready for deployment in somewhere near Earth orbit. So you could have several Sunbirds waiting to be utilized as space tugs. And then we would also have the same configuration maybe outside Mars, so that you would dock with the Sunbird platform outside Earth orbit. So low Earth orbit or geosynchronous orbit, and then you would go out to your destination and you would leave the Sunbird up there, and you could then land with your rocket and use it on the way back. So it's a bit like, I'm not sure if your viewers will know what I'm talking about, but it's a bit like a Boris bike in London. You can take the bike from one station and drop it off at another.
Yeah. Got it. We have those in North America where you're renting a bike or a e-scooter.
Exactly that.
And then you drop it off and then, yeah. And then finally, Richard, it would be remiss to have you on the show and not ask about Pulsar helping UK's role as a global hub for advanced space technology. It seems that the US dominates a lot of the discussion around space travel, space tourism.
No, it's a very important question. America dominates space funding in that part of the world. And in the UK, what we do have is a very, very rich talent pool, especially as all the fusion projects were actually based in Culham near Oxford. So we have all the very best fusion scientists from Europe in England and a massive wealth of nuclear fusion knowledge, which is why there are a lot of successful fusion projects in the UK. We have had government support for our projects, and we hope it continues. Was fortunate to meet Sir Richard Branson, so he's obviously no stranger to private space investments. So yeah, and I think there's a mixture, but ultimately this concept is born from the talent that we have in the UK as a result of all these fusion projects being here. Hopefully the US will continue to play a strong part with the UK and will help us develop our technologies together, which I hope is a sort of shared mission between governments.
Yeah. And then finally, Richard, where can we learn more about Pulsar Fusion and Sunbird?
Well, the Sunbird, I don't think there are many Pulsar Sunbirds around. So I'm sure a quick Google will come up with that fairly easily.
All right. So just a Google search there. You're down on Earth. Richard, thank you so much for your time and best of luck in getting Sunbird off the ground and into orbit and into space. So very exciting technology. Thanks for carving out some time to chat with us.
All right. Thank you so much.
We cover cybersecurity a lot on this program and how you can best protect yourself in the digital age, even if you're not super tech savvy. One part of the solution is securely shopping online. And so I'm thrilled about my partnership with Visa on Tech It Out, as they've made some significant investments in fraud prevention over the past 5 years, as much as $10 billion. Yes, that's billion with a B, to support Visa's brand promise to protect the financial information of individuals and businesses. Zero liability means peace of mind when you shop online using your Visa card. There can be no half measures when it comes to cybersecurity, which is why the company takes an aggressive and multi-layered approach to combating the rising threat of malicious software and other threats by well-funded and global criminal enterprises. Read more about Visa and how securing the world's payments is priority one at visa.com/security. That's visa.com/security. I hope to have them on the program again. They always have some great guests who are super articulate, and they know my approach of breaking down geek speak into street speak, and they're perfect at that as well for cybersecurity, for financial literacy, and so on. Speaking of great guests, coming up in a couple of moments from now, we are going to chat with Jeetu Patel. If you're not familiar with who he is, he's Chief Product Officer at Cisco, the company that helped build out the internet a few decades ago, and a huge player, of course, in the tech space. We're going to talk about AI and a survey they commissioned with CEOs of companies, big and small, and how they want to implement AI. And there's a disconnect between wanting to do it and how to do it. And so Jeetu is going to join us. He's been on the program before. I think it's been almost a year and a half or 2 years already. So we're going to get to that when we return as well. If you're on social media, I love hearing from Tech It Out listeners. Let me know what you're up to, where you're listening to the show from. If you've got tech questions for me, maybe suggestions for upcoming guests or topics, anything you don't like about the show, I'll spell my name in a moment, but I'm on X, Threads, Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky, YouTube, TikTok, LinkedIn, and a couple of others as well. It's Mark Saltzman, MarkSaltzman. So Mark with a C, Saltzman with a Z, and you can find me on many of the big social media platforms. Or you can send me an email if you prefer. My website is marksaltzman.com. You'll see where you can send me a note privately. If you like Tech It Out, please tell a friend. I'm not sure if you're listening to the podcast version of the show, but you can always leave a review or a star rating. That goes a long way, whether it's on Spotify or Apple, Amazon, Audible, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and so on. If you're able to leave a review, it really means a lot. Okay, when we return, we're going to catch up with Jeetu Patel from Cisco to chat AI. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
Breaking down geek speak into street speak. Check it out. Hosted by Mark Saltzman.
Welcome back to Tech It Out. You can't go a day without hearing about or reading about AI, with both positive and negative spins on what I would call the biggest disruptor to virtually every industry since probably the birth of the World Wide Web. I just returned from Mobile World Congress in Barcelona last night, in fact, and every booth from every company touted its AI technology. Cisco found that company CEOs are concerned that they're losing ground to competitors on AI, while also worried how inaction will impact growth and market share. Joining us to explain is Jeetu Patel, Chief Product Officer and EVP at Cisco, who believes there are two kinds of companies, those which are AI forward and those which may be left behind. Looking forward to unpacking this, Jeetu. Thanks for your time.
Mark, thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you on. It's been about 18 months, so welcome back to the program.
It's great to be back.
Thank you. Let's just dive right in. Tell us about the latest research Cisco conducted on CEOs and their thoughts on implementing AI.
You know, Mark, this is such a profound change that we're going through right now, where every assumption that we've had about how society works will actually be altered to some degree. And we went to CEOs of companies and said, what do you think about the possibilities of AI? 97% of them, an overwhelming majority, said that they were really excited about the possibilities of AI and they're very optimistic about it. But only 1.7% of them felt like they were prepared. That, to me, actually shows the disconnect that happens in organizations right now, is they all want to do it, but this is still way too complex. And that's where I think we as a society and as a tech community have to make it easier for every company in every business to be able to take advantage of this new technology, just like they took advantage of the internet or mobile.
Right. Were these enterprise level companies, Jeetu, or even small and mid-sized businesses?
I think they were across a very range of sizes, but there were enterprises in there. And the beauty about this market right now is, regardless of the segment in the market, segment being, is it small business, mid-sized business, large business, right, you will find that the possibility for them increasing their throughput and being able to solve problems they were not able to solve in the past is going to go up dramatically. Now, there's also going to be risk. But that's an exciting part when you actually start thinking about it, because what people think about AI right now is it's a great aggregation tool. I don't think it's just about aggregation. I think there's going to be original insights that AI is going to give us that allow us to solve problems we could never dream of solving before. because those original insights didn't exist in the human corpus of knowledge. And that's the beauty of, what we might be able to get done with this technology, which is what is super exciting, but also there's cause for concern that is legitimate on bad actors taking advantage of these things for things that we don't want them to do.
So exciting, but daunting at the same time. And you preempted my question, which is, why should we embrace AI? Why should companies embrace AI? But you've already touched on that. To boost efficiency and productivity, remain competitive, do more with less, right? I mean, I know these are all little catchphrases.
But Mark, I think the most important one is to solve problems we were not able to solve before. And I think that's the most important thing to fixate on. Like, we will be able to solve cancer in the way that we as humans by ourselves were not able to solve it. And I mean, think about it. Our workforce right now, if there's 8 billion people in the world, there is a real possibility that the throughput capacity of these 8 billion people will feel like 80 billion people. And that order of magnitude, kind of upside, a 10x upside, might be understated. And that's exciting to see what humans can achieve that they were not able to achieve without this,
Agreed. But you've already hinted that just as there are positive applications for AI, there's also some challenges. When it comes to companies, what are these challenges? Is it betting on the right horse, like which AI platform to adopt?
There are 3 challenges in the same study that we did, which talked about the 97% plan to integrate AI, but only 1.7% feel ready. There are 3 challenges that same study revealed for us. The first one is customers are concerned about how are they going to use infrastructure in the right way internally so that they have the necessary infrastructure to be able to take advantage of AI in the way that they need to, whether that infrastructure is related to compute, whether compute capacity, whether it's related to the network of these kind of bits flowing through the system, whether it happens to be data. It's complex today. And I think for a company that's a tech company, it's one thing. For a company that's not a tech company, that's not their core business, so it's intimidating. So that's the first one. First challenge is around infrastructure readiness. The second challenge is around safety and security. And it's a huge concern. We'll talk about that if we have time. And then the third challenge is around the skills. Do they have the right skills to be able to go out and get their current workforce, be able to take advantage of this? And those 3 challenges tend to be an overwhelming majority of concern that people have. And I'm hoping that Cisco and companies like Cisco can help solve many of these challenges for customers and make it easier for them. We need to make infrastructure plug and play, and not complex. We need to make sure that people don't have to worry about safety and security. We need to make sure that rather than firing everyone and hiring new people, we actually raise the dexterity level of the people that we have so that they can all learn from this wonderful movement.
And that is another fear about AI, at least for the workers, is that they're going to be replaced. But as we've learned over the years, for every job that automation replaces, whether it's AI, autonomous vehicles, robots, the industry creates new jobs, 2 to 3, if not more jobs for every one it takes away. So that's something that is promising, at least again, from the employee standpoint.
Yeah, what I try to tell people about on that front is don't worry about AI taking a job. Worry about another person that knows how to use AI well taking a job.
I like that. And that's apt. Don't worry about AI replacing your job. Worry about someone who knows how to use AI taking your job. Really great quote. All right, more with Jeetu Patel from Cisco. He is Chief Product Officer and EVP at the company. When we return, we're going to continue chatting AI in the workforce. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
Follow Mark Saltzman on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. Listen to Check It Out whenever you want.
We're chatting with Jeetu Patel. He's Chief Product Officer and Executive Vice President of Cisco. We are talking about AI in the workplace and how Cisco found that company CEOs are both excited and concerned about adopting AI. Jeetu, it would be remiss to have you on the show and not ask you, what predictions do you have for companies hesitant to implement AI into their organization?
Well, first thing I would say is, as a strategy, sitting on the sidelines won't get you the level of dexterity that you need to stay relevant in this market, right? So you have to immerse yourself and learn from doing a project or two so that you can get a little bit of a base instinct on how this is going to work. So that would be my advice at the highest level. Probably among the most counterintuitive predictions in any of these movements that happen, these shifts that occur, people grossly overestimate the impact in the short term and underestimate it in the long term. But I think we've now been at it in AI for a few years, especially with generative AI, like, tools like ChatGPT. And what you're starting to see there is in 2025, you will actually see an ability for organizations to be able to hire AI software engineers that'll be able to just get the coding done. And, a large percentage of coding that happens by developers today will actually happen with AI. And then developers will be able to use them as an aid so that they can get 10 times the amount of code written. That's just one example. 95% of the call center calls that come in, when you call someone and you say, my cable company, my internet's not working, those calls will be handled by these voice agents that will be AI agents that will sound just like human beings. And all of these things now are technologies that are possible in 2025, not something that's going to take years to go out and manifest itself. And that's it's the exciting part, and it's also the intimidating and scary part if you're behind and you're not going to adopt these technologies fast enough.
Wow, fascinating. And then finally, how does Cisco fall into all of this, and where can our listeners get more information?
So Mark, Cisco really helped shape the internet back in the day. We are at our core, a technology company, and the platform that we have, we're hoping that we can help shape the future of AI so that organizations can reach their full potential for the use of it without actually all of the complexity that burdens it right now. We will help organizations build resilient, scalable, highly performant, energy efficient infrastructure for AI. We will make sure that we actually provide tools and products for helping organizations stay safe and secure with AI so that you as a user or you as a developer that's building AI applications don't have to worry about that. You can just innovate fearlessly and we'll take care of all the hard work. And Cisco will also help in making sure that society at large gets trained with some of these pieces. So we have a lot of programs in place to help the folks who want to enter the workforce, who want to do different kinds of things with AI, that we can actually make sure that there's training courses and curriculum for them. So we're investing a lot in that. We've already trained about 5 million people, and there's many, many more that we will over time.
Well, there's certainly a disconnect with 97% of companies planning to integrate AI, but only 1.7% feel ready to do so, according to Cisco research. So a lot of work to be done. I know you're up for the task. Jeetu, it's always great to have you on the program. Is it simply Cisco.com?
Cisco.com. And we recently did an AI summit that was talking about safety and security, and that is CiscoAISummit.com. I highly encourage people to go there, register, and view all the conversations we had with the top 10 AI CEOs of AI companies that we had conversations with.
Fantastic. Thank you again, Jeetu. Good to talk to you. Thanks for your time and your insight.
Thank you for having me.
Wow, he's so smart. And it's been too long. So I'm glad that he made some time to come back on Tech It Out, which is powered by Visa. Securing the world's payments is priority one. Head over to visa.com/security to learn how they're doing it. Everything from all different ways to authenticate you, biometrics, ways to protect you, like tokenization. There's some AI in the background, speaking of AI, detecting if something is unusual, if a purchase is not near where you live or it's high, it's flagged and you're often notified by your bank. That's Visa at work as well. So really great stuff. I also want to give a shout out to SanDisk, another amazing partner of mine on Tech It Out, including the new SanDisk Creator Series line of storage solutions designed specifically for content creators. Of course, the driving force behind the content that most of us consume online today, from videos and blog posts to podcasts and social media updates. These SanDisk SSDs, or solid state drives, help to streamline the creative workflow from start to finish. We're talking high speeds, durability, portability, compatibility, and high capacity, now with drives that store several terabytes of data. More is at sandisk.com/creator. That's sandisk.com/creator. I want to thank our 3 guests this hour: Brad Bennett, head of creative at Mobile Syrup, talking iPhone with us; Richard Dinan, CEO of Pulsar Fusion, about propulsion technology; and Jeetu Patel from Cisco. Hope everyone has a great week ahead, and I look forward to catching up with you next time for another brand new episode of Tech It Out. Bye-bye for now.